Salutations Rangers, General Bradley 101, back at you again with some more lore. And in today's video, boys and gals, we're talking about something pretty epic. Because if you're a Warhammer fan, you know that Astartes is back, baby, and better than ever. And to the very few of you who weren't glued to your screen, absolutely engorged by the sheer love of Space Marine goodness that we got during that amazing trailer, you will have noticed that there's a couple new Marines involved. So in today's video, we're going to go over each and every single Space Marine that is featured in the Astartes II trailer and that will feature in the new series come in the new year. We're going to do a little bit behind the scenes, talk a bit about them, so we know exactly who these devastating, devilish, divisive fellows are. And just exactly who are we going to get in this new Deathwatch kill team. So strap in, buckle up, and let's get cracking on with today's video. So first thing first, the most boring out of the way, the Blood Angels. And I don't mean that boring as in I don't like the Blood Angels, I mean boring in the fact that they're one of the only original legions. Honestly, they should have been the Lamenters as it was previously, but that's neither here nor there. The Blood Angels are one of the original founding legions of the Space Marine, and they're one of the most iconic, tragic, infamous, and beloved legions in all of 40k, both in universe and without. And as we know, they have quite the history with Tyranids, with the entirety of the Devastation of Baal series, which presumably is what is shown here. We see a bunch of Blood Angels ascending in jump pack assault, wielding their chain blades and pistols as they want to do, fighting the Tyranid menace. So it's quite safe for us to assume that this is indeed during the Devastation of Baal. But nothing's been confirmed as of yet. But one thing that we do know, whoever this chap is that is picked is going to be a veteran of a veteran, and more likely pretty sad. For those of you who don't know, the Devastation of Baal was when the Tyranids decided I'm gonna nom on some Blood Angels, and Dante reunited the entirety of the Blood Angels minus two chapters. One, the Angels Vermilion, who declined for one reason or another, and the Lamenters, who are kinda half dead, not really, maybe. Nearly 30,000 Space Marines were gathered to defend Baal and its homeworld. And they did for the most part. I mean, Baal's still here, but to say that it was a disastrous affair would be an understatement of gargantuan proportions. We know of at least 5 chapters that have outright gone extinct, and several more that have been reduced to beyond combat effectiveness. To say that the Blood Angels were blooded during the Devastation of Baal is something that is both ironic and terribly tragic. The Blood Angels lost a significant amount of their strength, even more so in their gene seed stocks, many of whom were unable to be recovered due to the nature of the foe. So from all of that we can gather, whoever this chap is, he's definitely been through the ringer, and we don't know how it may have affected him. Normally Blood Angels are pretty honorable, they're nice, they're good guys, but I don't know if seeing thousands of his brothers torn apart by big giant bugs may have turned this Blood Angel fella a little, less than happy. But we don't know. What we do know is that he's going to be part of the Jump Assault Troop because Jump Angels, and he loves his swords and goddammit, does he look good. Next up we can see the Scythes of the Emperor, and they're also fighting Tyranids. So the story of the Scythes of the Emperor goes all the way back to the Great Crusade. But these guys are actually a third founding successor chapter that hailing from the Ultramarines. More specifically, the Ultramarines 199th Company, known as the Agada Company. So during the heresy everything was pretty bad, and Guilliman had eventually found a world by the name of Sothos. And this world had something known as the Pharaoh's Beacon. The Pharaoh's Beacon was essentially a type of astronomicon, but not really. It's some type of biomechanical alien nonsense. But it was pretty useful to the Imperium, and thus Gildad wanted to harness that usefulness. And in doing so, he entrusted it to Barbius Dantioch and his loyalist warband of Iron Warriors. However, at the end of the heresy, Dantioch would sadly give his life defending the beacon from a Night Lord's raid, and the beacon itself would be destroyed, Dantioch going with it. In lieu of this, the 199th Company of the Ultramarines, known as the Agada Company, was given task and charge to watch over the beacon, to ensure that no one or anything would come to rummage around in its wreckage, to try and find anything they could salvage, as well as to honor the memory of Barbius Dantioch. And the company would continue its duty to watch over the world of Sothos, acting as the 11th Shadow Company of the Ultramarines. During this time, a Space Marine by the name of Obradai would rise to the rank of captain and command the company, having initially served as a scout during the heresy, and being promoted to Scout Sergeant by Rabute Guilliman himself. However, eventually the Ultramarines company would be forgotten, as the world of Sothos was also forgotten. So many of its Ultramarines would actually settle down, and eventually they would pass away with peaceful lives, with Obadiah being the last living Ultramarine there. It's not exactly explained how, but, you know, it just happened. It will be during this time that he will be approached by the Ultramarines proper. Rogodorn, in light of learning about the Agada Company, as well as believing that the Imperium needed to be strengthened further, announced that he would make a third founding. Thus, Obadiah was approached by Chaplain Segis, who had been sent by Tigerius Deacon, the current chapter master of the Ultramarines. He could either accept reassignment into the chapter's 5th company, or continue his watch over Pharos by becoming the first chapter master of the brand new Agada chapter. Obadiah initially rejected this outright, as he was quite happy with his life, and he thought that the idea of a third founding was utterly ludicrous. However, he would eventually be convinced to return to service, and together with veteran brother Wenlock, as well as Chaplain Segis and 72 other Ultramarine veterans, Obadiah would officially found the Scythes of the Emperor chapter. With their homeworld as Sotha, the Agate Company have already taken the Scythe iconography from the world of the farmers which they had long since protected, and thus with the Scythes of the Emperor born. The Scythes of the Emperor would continue to grow in strength and prowess, and they became known for fighting many different Xenos, including Orcs and Tau. However, their greatest foe would be the Tyranids. The Scythes of the Emperor, along with the Elementors, would be the only two Space Marine chapters in their neck of the woods who would stand against the onslaught of the Tyranid fleet of Hive Kraken, and they would pay for it dearly. Refusing to move, refusing to budge, they would stand and defend the Imperium to their dying breath. And it seems that their dying breath was coming very quickly, as the chapter was nearly all but rendered extinct, with only a few Battle Brothers left. In addition to this though, their gene seed has also been somewhat corrupted. For one reason or another, many of the Battle Brothers were infected with a genetic corruption, known as the Gene Stealer's Kiss from a Gene Stealer Patriarch. Though the Patriarch itself was slain, the corruption still lingered. And whilst they are able to resist the psychic temptations of the hive mind, they have to wear psychic hooks to cover them at nearly all times. And many believe that the Scythes of the Emperor would end there and then, slowly corrupted and devoured by the hive mind. But of course, Big Bobby G came back, so did Daddy Call, and he gave them the Primaris tech, which allowed the chapter to rebuild. It is unknown though if they firstborn still have that psychic problem with the bugs. If they did, it'd be very interesting. As we can see from the trailer, the chap in question is indeed firstborn, so who knows. But then again, he's not wearing a hood, so could be anything. But with the boosted of the Primaris, the Scythes of the Emperor continue fighting and striding on, for they would defend the Imperium, as their forefather had done before him. Not for glory, not for honor, but for those who would bear the Scythes of the Emperor. Alright, next up we have the Sons of Medusa. The Sons of Medusa are an Iron Hand successor chapter, and they have a very interesting story. See, way back when, during the Nova Terra Interregnum, which is a civil war that everyone forgets about or has no idea even exists, there was a schism in the Martian Mechanicum. The tech priests of Moray had seemingly had a vision. One could say they had a dream that their children would no longer be judged by whether they worship the God Emperor or the Mechanicum, but how fervently they prayed. So the tech priests of Moray believed that the Imperium itself should combine. The Ecclesiarchy and the Adeptus Mechanicus should join together, and they should become one giant superchurch. As you can imagine, to the tech priests of Mars, this was absolute heresy and absolutely rubbish. So, what did they do? They destroyed Moray and completely annihilated it. But before they could completely kill all the boys on the planet, they had managed to send a few messages to basically every single Mechanicum allied world, planet, or organization, and that included the Iron Hands, as well as all their successors. Basically, a lot of Iron Hands successors, approximately a third, heard the teachings of Moray and actually believed in it. However, the rest of the chapter was not having it. But instead of committing a violent civil war and killing each other, which would have been very bad, they simply allowed the Iron Hands brothers to become exiles. Thus, about a third of the Iron Hands, as well as various other numbers from other Iron Hand successors. Except for the Red Talons, we don't know. There's conflicting sources, some say the Red Talons let their boys go, others say they murdered them in cold blood, don't really know. But they gathered together, and they then departed and they became their own chapter. Not really, mind you. All of them still carried their parent chapter's sigils and iconography, and they still believed themselves to be part of the Iron Hands. So much so that whenever they would send tithes of the Gene Seed to the Adeptus Mechanicus, it'd be under Iron Hands tithes. Eventually, however, approximately 2,000-ish years would pass, and the Civil War would come to a close with the reinduction of strong High Lords. From there, the Morayan exiles, who had basically become their own chapter at this point, in all but name, were judged and weighed by the High Lords of Terra, and it was founded that they were not wanting. There was no corruption, no chaos, no nothing, they were all in good orders. Thus, in M37 were they ordained and to create a brand new chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, a successor of the Iron Hands, known as the Sons of Medusa. And despite the initial misgivings, many people still not really sure if they wanted to fight with them, the Sons of Medusa have proven nothing but loyal, honorable, and noble. And unlike the OG Iron Hands, they're not that dickish, but they do have a little bit of a kleptomania problem. You see, due to their nature of being exiled from their parent chapters, they found out that scavenging gear is very, very handy. So they have a tendency to scavenge the battlefield after everything is done. This has earned them the decisive title Carrion Eaters and Dead Feeders by those who really don't like them. But honestly, they're just coping. All in all, the Sons of Medusa are classic Iron Hands. They love their heavy-handed tactics, they love their heavy armor, as we can see from the trailer, and most importantly, they're loyal to the core and they're always ready for a good fight. Also, the paint job. Real nice. We then have the Mortifactors. The Mortifactors are a second founding successor chapter that hail from the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines captain, known as Sabasso Tezuka, was given the honor of commanding the brand new chapter, and, using the Emperor's tarot, they were led to their homeworld of Poso, which was a dark-covered feral world. From there, the Mortifactors would build up their chapter, and they would recruit exclusively from the feral population of cannibalistic tribesmen. And here we can see a very interesting aspect to them. The Mortifactors are a very morbid chapter, but morbid in deeds, not necessarily countenance. They're not necessarily melancholic like you would meet with, say, the Lamenters. And this is because of the combination of cultures. The Mortifactors are incredibly well disciplined and incredibly well balanced in terms of a tactical sense and even understanding sense. A prime example of this is that they do not treat the Codex Astartes as law. They treat it as what it was meant to be, a guideline. They do not rigidly adhere to it, but they do not completely disregard it in the same fashion. They do as what Robuta Gilman would have wanted them to do. They take a balanced approach, and they pick the best course of action for what is required at the time. Not to mention, they're incredibly combat effective, and they have good relationships with pretty much everyone, except for a bit more of the religious sects. You see, the Mortifactors recruit from the tribe homeworld. And, as I mentioned before, the tribesmen are feral and cannibalistic and are pretty wacky. And even despite all the superhuman augmentation of the Space Marines, their culture still bleeds into the chapter. Meaning that the Mortifactors look like this, and they often adorn their arms and armor with bones, as well as various different other types of scrimshaw artifacts. And they have a lot of very interesting, shall we say, rituals. For example, they love to drink blood and eat the flesh of the deceased. They also have various other different names and titles and things that are extremely cultish, and some people have described them as more of a pagan horde than an actual Space Marine chapter. But the problem is, this is all just window dressing. Yes, they may indeed eat the flesh, they may drink the blood, they may chant and do all this rubbish, but at the end of the day, they can hold an Ultramarines fire line that would make Guilliman proud. They're a mixture of both, but they're a little bit more flavorful. But still, the fact of the matter is, if you get like an ecclesiarchy preacher seeing the angel of death covered in bones and drinking blood, you're going to get a little bit, oh, that's a little chaotic. But despite the protests and the countless tests done by the Inquisition, the Mortifactors are 100% loyal, and have never faltered in any way, shape or form. And some people out of law absolutely love them because it gives them a bit of culture. For example, every single Space Marine who is yet to have a kill is known as the Faceless, because you'll notice that the Mortifactors wear skulls on their helmet. That skull is from the first enemy they ever killed, and until they kill an enemy, they don't have a face for their helmet, or their face, depending on how esoteric you want to be. Hence, they are skullless, they are faceless. Gives them a nice little bit of flavor to it. Personally, I just love the aesthetic. This feral warrior rage held together by the iron discipline of Rome. It really does read to me like a Foderati, or a type of barbarian tribe that was Romanized. It still has the Roman discipline, but it still has enough of its culture that you can tell that they're not from Latium. Personally, I love it, and I love these guys. And for those of you who may be thinking, oh Brad, surely they're not that bad, let me tell you this story. On the day of the Emperor's Ascension in the year 998 M41, the entirety of the chapter initiated a mass meditation ritual, aka they got high as balls and they tripped hell. When they returned from their mega trip, every single one of them had prophesized that the Third War of Armageddon would be the last battle of the Mortifactors. Thus, the Mortifactors recruited all men who could be Mortifactors from the tribes of Mosul, completely just gobbled up the entire population, and arranged them into war, making them Space Marines and preparing to depart to Armageddon to face the Beast. The Beast being Gazgul Thraka, not the Beast from 32k. Very important. And they were said to leave the chapter monastery to the serfs and gather literally everyone, all 10 companies. But personally, I think it's more than 10, because if you recruit every single guy, you're going to have more than 10, but that's just me. And they thought they would die on Armageddon, but they didn't. And eventually they would return and build up their strength, and they would be visited by a torchbearer fleet bearing the Primaris tech, and under the writ of Guilliman they easily accepted, and they are now continued to be the badass, awesome, if a little cannibalistic, sons of the Ultramarines. And then finally, but never least, we have the best of all of these, and the absolute fan favorite, the Retributors. The Retributors are a chapter of an unknown origin, unknown Primarch, unknown lineage, though it is assumed that they are of Rogel Dawn given their nature. The Retributors are hard-hitting, efficient, relentless, but a little bit distant. They are all about battlefield effectiveness. They're about winning battles, and very much so, they're not flashy. They don't care about glory, they don't care about niceties, they don't care about honor. They're kind of like the Raptors in that sense, but not nearly as modern or techie. I imagine them as a very no-nonsense, bare-bones chapter. Their gear is state-of-the-art, top of the line, incredibly well made, but it's pretty simple. And As we can see in the original Astartes I, the bolter and combat blade get the job done. And said event was their most notable campaign, that being the Argosan Uprisings in 284 M39, where they hunted down and destroyed the last leaders of a rebel uprising against the Emperor. That was those two psycho dudes. The Retributors have always continued fighting across the entirety of the Imperium, but they will often deploy in what are known as impulsor squads, that being small self-sufficient units, which are not as large as a company, but probably larger than the initial squad. The whole point is they are meant to do what needs to be done, and they are spread thin because of who they fight. These guys have taken to a panache for fighting all types of technologically advanced, witchcraft, as well as human foes. They're kind of like an Ordo Hereticus type deal. They're gonna go for the fellows who are inciting rebellions, revolts, and those who have the bad technology as well as the vicious psychic nonsense. When it comes to foes like that, you don't need pomp, you don't need circumstance. What you do need is hard-hitting, close quarters, devastating precision strikes. And the Retributors, they do that quite well. Also, they look so good, bro. They are easily Rogodorn successors. Because for those of you who don't know, this is the fan-made, now canonized chapter by the creator of Astartes, Samaya Pedersen. And like all fan-made canon chapters, they just slap. They're definitely Sons of Dawn though, bro. The whole no-nonsense soldier aspect to them, I love them. They're amazing. Also, that color scheme is so good. Dark gray type nonsense with the gold highlights and the white trim and the... ooh, they're so good. Also, bro, their sigil slaps so hard. That is so hard. That doesn't need to go that hard, bro. It is so good. And who knows? They may pose a very big part in the new Astartes II series. But wherever they are, whatever they're doing, the Retributors are going to do it efficiently, and goddamn are they going to look cool while doing it. And bonus time. At the very end of the trailer, we saw a Terminator. For those of you who don't know, this show is showing off the Deathwatch, because all these fellas are known to fight types of aliens or alien-aligned people. And if you know anything about the Deathwatch, they have kill teams, which means they mix and match various different individual men from different units. So you have a bike, you have an assault marine, you have a devastator, you have a tactical, and you'll have a Terminator. And considering that this Terminator has a big ol' Inquisition, I think that this chap could be from the Red Hunters. The Red Hunters are a very loyal chapter to the Inquisition, and they're known to serve them admirably for the better part of 8,000 years since M32. So, you know, Deathwatch, Xenos, Inquisition symbol, it makes sense if the Terminator head was a veteran of the Inquisition. But yeah, super hyped for Astartes II. Let me know down below what you guys think. Which one is your favorite? Of course it's going to be the Retributors, because why not? They're just so badass. But honestly, I really do like how they pick successor chapters. I really don't like how they changed the Blood Angels from the Lamenters. I would have preferred another Blood Angel successor personally, but what are you going to do? But let me know down below, which one is your favorite? How hyped are you guys for 2026? And I just want to hear what you guys have to say. But a massive thank you to you guys for watching, and even more massive thank you to my awesome members and Patreons. Shout out to my Lieutenant tier members, Mr. Eddie V3 and Miss Major of the Void. Shout out to my Sergeant tier members, Mr. Damiak, Mr. Andy McGee, Mr. Warsmith Fireheart, and Mr. Corn's Butcher. Shout out to my Corporal tier members, Mr. Bowen and Mr. Tremail the Math Kitty. And then finally, but certainly not least, shout out to my Private tier members, Mr. Thomas Waslons, Mr. Ivan_SVW, Mr. Michael Hayeda, and Mr. Hattori's Cuz. And very big shout out to my Patreon members, Mr. Fortus Unum, General Alexander, and Mr. Bulwin. I'll get it all sorted out properly in a bit. Like I said, by the end of this week everything will be sorted and I'll be able to put it all together, but thank you all so very much. It means the absolute world to me that you guys do this, and I am truly and sincerely just beyond happy that this exists. Thank you, each and every one of you. I will sort out the Patreon soon. I just got a lot of work to do, but I'll get to it eventually, promise. But the fact that you guys do this, the fact that you guys make this possible, it means the world to me, and I will never be able to thank you guys enough for this amazing act. So if you want to join these awesome peeps, you can sign up to the memberships down below. The Patreon is not done yet. The Patreon will be up shortly. I'll make a post about it, so keep an eye for that if you like Patreon better. But you can early access the videos, behind the scenes stuff, hand in making the channel, progress updates, monthly schedules, and you can gain contact access to your boy here via the Discord, which is coming. I know it's coming, I promise. I just need to take a day to make it, I promise. But more importantly, you get to help out your boy, you get to say thank you to me, and if you sign with our Captain tier, you get a video request on quite literally anything, and I'll make it the very next day. Yes, I will, but remember, it's always be free. You watching me more than enough, and I would love you just the same. Mwah! But ladies and gentlemen, I've been the General Bradley 101. You people awesome and amazing people. Thank you all so very much for watching. Make sure to stay resolute out there, boys and gals. And I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers. Honestly, I've never heard it yet, but I can't wait for that one idiot who's going to call the Retributors cringe because they were a fan chapter made canon. Cope and seethe, motherfucker. Cope and seethe.